Where do you think we are right now with COVID-19?
In a mess, right? Complete uncertainty. We don't know who to trust. We don't know where real information comes from, what science to believe, what doctors to believe. You know, you go online and talk to your friends and, you know, one person says, be careful and shows you a doctor video, and another person says, you know, no, here's another video from another doctor saying this is all overblown. And it's hard to know exactly what to do. And that's the problem for businesses, because if their customers are uncertain, they're not going to go and spend money.
Mark, what do you do? What do you personally do as a business leader? How do you approach the situation individually? Are you always masked up? Are you, you know, not shaking hands? Are you doing the elbow bump? How do you?
I'm giving the elbow. I'm giving the heart, right? I'm giving the salute. Just, I'm not shaking hands. You know, it's just, I'm trying to keep my mask on all the time. I'm probably less concerned about catching it from touching surfaces. I think that's less of an issue. But yeah, I think we need to wear our mask. It's difficult times right now. And, you know, I'd rather err on the side of caution. You know, I've been tested because my daughter had somebody who she's an acquaintance with, not close to, test positive, or several of them. And I was hanging out with my daughter, so we got tested. So it makes you realize that you're really only an inch away from a real problem.
Did we open too soon?
It's not that we opened too soon. It's just that we weren't diligent when we opened up. If we would have said, you know what, here's what businesses need to do, how do we help them, then we would have been all right, just like we've seen in Europe and in some states here. But it was just a free-for-all. Remember, we went through this process. I remember early on, there was this thing, 61 days, it always goes away. So some people believe that. Then we got to this thing that said, well, this, you know, people are smart. They're gonna be able to make their own choices and do what's best for them. And that works until it doesn't. And so here we are in the third ordinance, the third layer of mistakes, if you will. So it's not that we opened too soon. It's that we weren't diligent enough in the processes that we needed to be safe.
I want to ask you about, obviously, what's going on in our country and with race relations. And you had, as an organization, you were a part of it, St. Marshall, current players, former players, courageous conversations where you had your employees at Victory Plaza recently talking about it. How important is that?
It's very important. I mean, look, white people don't talk about race. You know, Keith, I mean, I'm asking, I mean, when you sit around the dinner table with your friends or family, you can feel comfortable talking about race, correct?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't find white people talking about the white race. You don't find white people saying white people need to do this, because when we hear the term white race, when we hear the term white people, we think KKK or white supremacists, and that immediately becomes uncomfortable. When we hear the term white privilege, everybody immediately becomes defensive, and we do this thing called manufactured equivalencies, right? Manufactured equivalents, where we say, well, white privilege doesn't apply to me because this reason, that reason. You know, we're a nation of immigrants. Everybody's got a story from their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents when they came to this country. White privilege isn't about any individual, and it's not there to take away from all the challenges that you or your family has overcome, right? White privilege has nothing to do with that, you know, but we don't talk about those things, so we don't understand them, so we immediately get defensive. And so I wanted to come out and start talking, right? And yeah, I knew I was going to catch a lot of grief, right? I knew it was going to be difficult. It's something we need to do if we're going to make progress. And we have such a unique point in time in this country to make a real change now. Progress is never pretty. You know, it can be very painful at times. And that's what we're going through right now. But look, we've had systemic racism in this country for a long, long, long time. And it wasn't instituted by Black people.
One thing, Mark, personally, that I have seen take place recently is the growing comfort in using the word racism. As an African-American myself, you know, it was always taboo. White people didn't want to hear it. Black people felt uncomfortable saying it. You were told you were playing the race card if you said it as a Black person. The white person said, wait a minute, you know, that's not me. Just like you said, deflect. But when you said you caught grief, or you feel you're going to catch grief, or you knew you would catch grief, are you talking about from like white people from the standpoint of it's a code, you're breaking the code?
I don't think it's so much a code as we think of it as individual people, where Black people think of it as a race, right? We think it can't be me, like you mentioned earlier. And we come up with these reasons why I'm the one who can't possibly be racist. And we think racism is only about extremes. You know, you use the N-word or you discriminate against somebody. Those are the only people who are racist. They don't really understand the subtle racism, or we don't really make the effort to understand or act on the subtle racism because we don't have to deal with it every day. Realize whatever the percentage is, some huge percentage of white people spend 99% of their day only dealing with white people, you know, and so it's out of sight, out of mind, and that creates its own set of difficulties. So it's not like people, you know, if I try to bring it up, it's like, no, don't talk about that. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I know, you know, or it's, you know, that's just not how we talk. It's not so much of that anymore. And I think a lot of that also has to do with social media. We get a lot more courageous or a lot more stupid, depending on your perspective, on social media. And that's where a lot of people, you know, put out what they really think. You know, we used to say that when people were drunk, that's when they said what they really meant. Now it's on social media. You get to see who people really are. And that's where a lot of the challenging comes from.
You know, athletes and NBA players have been very vocal on these issues. As the NBA reconvenes, starts playing games July 31st in Florida, there's a great opportunity, a platform right there for the players. What do you expect the scene to be like the first national anthem that's played when play resumes?
Everybody's got to do what they think is right. When all this discussion of the flag started coming up again recently, it got me thinking about the Pledge of Allegiance, because we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. And those are the key words to me that got me thinking, with liberty and justice for all. So all of us who have grown up in this country have grown up saying that Pledge of Allegiance. And we make a pledge to offer liberty and justice for all. We don't say you have to stand. We don't say anything about your positioning. We don't say anything about your posture. We say that we offer our allegiance to this flag and liberty and justice for all. And so when players start talking about taking a knee or whatever it may be, however they address what they think are injustices, that's what this comes down to. That's what we all as Americans have pledged, liberty and justice for all. And if they think that the best way to do it, to get awareness for equal justice, equal liberties for everybody in this country, and it's by kneeling or raising their hand in protest, yes, absolutely. You know, because I believe in that pledge. Now I say it every day to myself, you know, and it ends in liberty, with liberty and justice for all. And that's what they're doing. And look, you know, there's so many hypocrites when it comes to the flag as well. You go to any sporting event and you walk through the concourse while the national anthem is being played, and I'll stop and put my hand over my heart. 90% of the people just keep on walking and doing what they do. You never see people walking by a flag in Dallas stopping, right, and, you know, saluting or putting their heart. It's just, there's a lot of anger over all this, but I think a lot of it is manufactured and hypocritical. Again, this country, we all pledge to that flag for liberty and justice for all. And however our guys want to get there, that's a personal decision for them.